Hello, 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 and welcome to episode 70 of the Titanforge podcast. My name is Ratnos, joined by friends Tettles and Trell.
What's up, everybody?
Yo. This week we have a couple topics to discuss. The main news that is new for us is that we know a release date for Shadowlands now, and I think it caught most of us by surprise. It is the 23rd of November. Sorry for spoiling anybody out there who was trying to remain, he was trying to keep this, a secret until it came out or whatever. Dude, that was actually a comment I got on my YouTube video. When I made a YouTube video, yeah, people were there's literally somebody who's complaining about it being a spoiler that I said what time.
What was the title of your YouTube video?
It's like Shadowlands release date announced November 23rd. Somebody's
and
like,
they clicked on that video.
Well, so it's not necessarily that they clicked on it because it was in the title, right? So that the argument is like, okay, there's a spoiler in the title, but like, I don't know. Anyways,
that's like the people who try to go as long as possible without knowing the Super Bowl champion, right? They try to just extend their knowledge of not knowing who won the Super Bowl for as long as possible.
For the whole next day. Yeah.
That is definitely actually. I feel like that's kind of possible for... I don't know when I learned the Super Bowl champion. That information went in one ear and out the other for me, though, because I was during Race to World First last time.
I watched it with they were watching it in the GameStop Performance Center. I watched it with them.
Okay, all right, yeah.
So I guess I knew.
Fair enough.
It was during the Race to World First, so if I wouldn't have known that, I would not have figured it out.
So this week we have that release date that we'll talk a little bit about the implications of that. Also, on a brief programming technical note, apparently the show will be out an hour earlier for European and Australian listeners this week.
Oh, so
yeah. If that's if you're surprised,
shout out daylight savings time.
Yeah, daylight savings time is coming tomorrow for us Americans, so that's something to look for. Is this the bad one? No, this is the good one, right?
So it's already happened for Europe. So the show is happening an hour.
Okay, it's already. It's even the live part. Yes. Okay.
Currently. Tomorrow DST should normalize it. Like, it should be released at the same time, but I didn't realize that their daylight savings was last Sunday.
I see. Yeah, for us it's tomorrow, and it's the good one, I think, right? Fall back.
Yes, extra hour of sleep.
It's an extra hour of sleep. All right, yeah. Man, I remember it being...
yes, because Stratos and I sleep the most normal sleep schedules anyways.
Yeah, well, obviously now it doesn't matter anymore, but I remember it being a big deal when I was in like high school in particular. I needed that extra hour bad, and then when the hour got taken away in spring, it was a complete nightmare. I was like a zombie for the whole week.
You're busy making Minecraft YouTube videos in the middle of the night.
Dude, I just need a lot of sleep. I don't know. I need a lot of hours of sleep sometimes.
Do you normally sleep a lot?
Yeah, like if I can, if I don't have like an obligation, I'm sleeping 9 or 10 hours usually. I'm a sleepy boy.
I sleep like 4 or 5 or 12. There's literally no in between for me.
Fair enough.
Sleep 6 to 8. I can't even sleep longer than 8 hours these days.
Yeah, sometimes I can't sleep, even when I want to continue sleeping, but most of the time I can. Trell, when you do wake up on Saturday, though, you've been doing some Titanforge podcast keys now 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah, I've had some time. I think before the expansion launches, I could keep doing it for a little bit, but we've been doing like 4 to 5 keys in the morning with the community, and it's been a good time. If you're a Patreon, feel free to hop in.
Very cool. Very, very awesome. How's that been going? How were the keys today?
I think we only depleted one of them. We've been doing like 22s, 24s.
Did you guys time the Ataldazar?
No, we missed it. Just barely. The last boss is pretty hard, man.
Yeah. Have you felt like any of the bosses have really like changed in difficulty with pre-patch? Like, are there any ones that are easy now that used to be hard, or hard now that used to be easy?
Yeah, definitely. Most of the bosses are either easier or harder, some of the same, but like Galv and Harlan's Suite especially are pretty overtuned than they were before. Galv's pillars do like probably 1.5 times the damage I feel than last season. They're pretty rough.
Yikes.
And the strat and freehold in pre-patch is to clear the entire last platform so that you have the entire boss room to just run to Narnia away from the Sabers, because the Sabers start one-shotting at like 25.
That's so wild.
I know, it's crazy.
I don't understand how that happens, but I guess they're just, I don't know, something's weird.
So there's some wild stuff going on in pre-patch actually. You know the bloodswarmers that fly around in the air and then underrot past Cragmont? One of those now just randomly like comes and lands on the ground and like runs across on the side, but is in a spot where if you tag him, it'll evade. So he like comes in, gets in combat with the group, and then just like ruins the pull by evading the whole pull.
Because he evades the pack out of combat and then it just resets the whole pull. Yeah, it's normal. Very, very normal stuff.
I don't even know how that happened.
Dude, that is bizarre. I cannot imagine how frustrating it must be to be a Warcraft dev, and you just like you push some leveling change in Shadowfang Keep or whatever, and it just breaks a Bloodswarmer in the Underrot, and you're like, how did this happen? Yeah.
I wonder why that happens. It must be like, are they using like reference? I don't know. They must be using like references or something like that.
And like stuff like the slimes and junkyard now do on death fixes. So you literally have to pull a slime basically solo on a high key because there's going to be like 8 bursting stacks as well as the slime just doing massive damage.
Dude, I remember doing that on PTR and everybody was like, this is awful. We need this to stop. And then it did. And now it's back.
It was impossible because the slime does the explosion over and over again. Whenever it was matched with bursting, you just didn't live.
Yeah. Characters are pretty powerful right now, though. They're able to do a lot of stuff, especially like I think it's interesting how there's been like a rebalancing of all Azerite traits and trinkets and stuff, and there's a new set of like OP ones. I don't know. Pre-patch is so weird. It's like it's such a short meta, but it is cool. Anyways, Shadowlands, now that is fast approaching, all three of us as content creators have stuff planned as well. I know, Trell, you've been working on Shadowlands dungeon commentaries. How's that been going, and what are your plans for content over the next couple weeks and into Shadowlands?
I still got 3 more dungeons to do, but I've basically just been making like a tank POV for every pack and boss that I pull in those dungeons, just so people can go look through it, especially if they haven't had beta access. They can go look through it and be ready to guide their guildies through the dungeons the first week. Because when you do a Mythic Zero on the first week of the expansion, it's one of my favorite things. If you're really knowledgeable about it, you can honestly just like blow through the dungeon and your guildies have no idea what's going on. It's really exciting.
Yeah, your guildie's just hopping on the train and catching a ride.
Yeah, like I need gear.
Yeah, I'm also planning to ramp up Shadowlands content as soon as that actually comes out. Tettles, how about you? Do you have plans for any stuff to make?
Well, maybe not as much with the release date being announced the day it is, because I do stuff with my family every year, basically, is the TLDR, and I'm not home typically during the holidays, but I don't know what the fuck I'm gonna do now.
Okay. Yeah.
Very cool.
Let's move into talking about that release date. Although one brief final note in the intro is next week we're going to talk about UI and key bindings and stuff. So for anybody who is interested in that kind of episode, that's on the way next week. Right. So release date has been announced. Let's put it up on the screen. Shadowlands arrives November 23rd at 3 p.m. Pacific. So that's midnight on between the 23rd and the 24th for EU. And it's a global release, so everybody around the world is going to get it at the same time. And then the raid will be coming out 2 weeks later on December the 8th for Heroic Week and December the 15th for Mythic Week. So, Tettles, what was your first reaction to this, and how's this affecting you?
Well, personally, okay, so I know a lot of people are going to be at home for COVID. My family still is going to, like, we travel to our grandparents' house every single year, which is like an 8-hour journey. So I'm going to not be with them for Christmas, but I'm still going to go for Thanksgiving. So I'm just going to level late, I think, is how this is going to affect me, which sucks, but it is what it is, right? Like, there's not really much I can do about it.
Yeah. So, yeah. And it's not like you can't be okay. Like, leveling late it's not going to be too punishing this expansion,
I'm going to be leveling on Saturday or Sunday, which is not ideal. Basically, I have to have my guild does assign Mythic Zero groups, so my assigned Mythic Zero group is going to have to do their shit on Monday, like basically whenever I'm done leveling, and I have to make sure that I get the Soul Ash from Torghast. Those are the two things that are important because so basically, and this is going to be important for all people. There are a few things that you have to do once you do hit 60 in Shadowlands. Basically, you look at your legendaries and you look at the legendary that you're probably going to either need for raiding, or if you're a Mythic Plus only player, whatever legendary you want from Mythic Plus, and you determine where you want to get that from. For some of the legendaries, they're from rep requirements. None of the Moonkin ones, fortunate enough for me, that I really need are from rep requirements. The ones that I need are from like layer 3 of Torghast. So I'm actually in an okay position to where I'm fine with being behind on the rep grind from like dailies and world quests and shit like that. So instead, I'm just going to make sure that I get my Soul Ash from Torghast, make sure I do my Mythic Zeros. That is the most important thing, because for me, the dailies aren't as impactful.
Yeah, the weekly lockout stuff is basically what he has to do late, which might be a time crunch. I could see that.
Yeah, definitely we've got an assigned Mythic Zero group. That's there's going to be maybe a little bit of pressure on them or something. I don't know. But it should be doable, right? Like that.
My guild also only has one character required. So
right, yeah. So I mean, most players are only going to be worried about one.
You guys are requiring 2, are you not, Dreadnoughts?
I haven't really
2 corn dogs per Pop Tart.
We haven't like 100% nailed down exactly who's doing what.
As a prestigious US 8th guild, I would have assumed that you guys needed the splits, and you guys have extra time to be able to do additional heroic runs and shit like that.
I think we're planning on having 2. I personally, so the reason I don't actually know off the top of my head is I'm planning to just have like, it's because I'm the tank, I'm planning to have a lot of characters anyways, right? Like as a raid tank in a prestigious US 8th guild, I'm planning on having like 3 or 4 ready for a week. Because the thing about raid tanking, particularly like Mythic Progression raid tanking, is that unlike the other roles, it can often be correct to drop like 10 item levels to switch between a tank spec to another for a given fight. That's basically never true for DPS players. It's basically always true that you just want your DPS to be geared, and you would never drop 10 item levels for a different spec. Unless it was a really bad spec and a really good spec, in which case you'd have already made that choice. Right, so yeah. You're looking for a good roster that has good mains to cover different situations, but you're not looking to like play some bad alt from a DPS perspective unless there's some really weird incentive on a fight. Well, that does happen sometimes.
Especially being as high ranked as you guys are, and it being the first tier of an expansion, the odds of you bringing alts in on like first kills for prog, if like is required, it seems fairly high, because there aren't there's no shitter alt with rank 2 essences. There's going to be no alt that's 40 corruption resistance behind, right? All of the alts are it's just going to be the gear that they're wearing, especially since it is the first tier. So they're like, if you do multiple splits, there are going to be like alts that are on par with mains typically.
Yeah, just except for the like extra Mythic Plus dungeons you can do the heroic week. That's typically the only difference. Like the main will usually have a little bit more gear because of that. But I think
the extra Mythic Plus dungeons from heroic week aren't even that impactful, because the Mythic
they're plus 5. Yeah, they're eye level 194.
Is lower than heroic raid. So the second heroic split is more impactful for alt gearing at this point.
The alts get less gear from the splits though, right? Because they're trading gear to mains whenever possible. So they're not going to have like whatever items they want. They're going to have whatever items. They're going to have the hand-me-downs, right? The items that they but you're not, happen to be on their sheet.
There's going to be no way for them to trade, is the thing, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, they will trade if they can, though, right? Like, so if you get 2 items, you're going to trade that second one to a main, even if it's an upgrade for you. Now, it's not a big deal, but it is. The alts will have a lower gear level, particularly as Mythic Progression continues, right? Because they're not going to be getting Mythic loot.
Yes, absolutely. But this was assuming that the raid ends early, right?
Yeah, I think we're planning on having an alt per player, but I also we're planning to be pretty flexible for our players because it is the holiday time. So if we have players that are less able to play, like if we had a player who needed to do your stupid Thanksgiving thing, we would be fine with them probably having one
Did
character.
You say stupid Thanksgiving thing? My grandmother is not stupid, bro. Leave me alone.
It's not her involvement that makes it stupid. It's yours.
I have no control over this.
Anyways, because of the release time, it's it's tough for a lot of people. But that for a lot of guilds, it's gonna be rough over the rating over the actual Christmas portion, because Mythic is coming out on the 15th. We're gonna have you know, it's not like a lot of players are going to be busy on any given day, particularly with the pandemic. There's not going to be a lot of people like traveling for the holidays, but there are going to be a lot of people who have like one random family obligation on the 23rd or the 27th or the 25th. And if you're trying to field a roster of 20 people, particularly if you would ideally like to play a specific 20 people, the same 20 people each night for any given boss fight, that is when one person having a family obligation becomes like already a thing, and multiple people becomes a serious problem that can make progression really hampered. So it's going to be a challenge for our guild, and you know, for a lot of guilds that are progressing. Really, anybody I'd say below like World 5th is likely to be on progression through Christmas, and anybody above World, I don't know, 500th is probably going to be. I think that 5th to 500th range is the range where you're gonna like feel it, and you know the competition for like server rankings, for US rankings, for world rankings in that range is going to be largely impacted by which guilds are least busy during the holidays, right? Which is a little bit of a shame. Like I believe that will be a negative impact for the raid experience for players in those guilds, but I don't think it means the release date's bad. I think the release date being when it is and the raid release time being when it is makes a lot of sense. I think getting this game, you know, if it's ready on the 23rd, get it out on the 23rd. And then there was an argument that some players were making to delay the raid to January. But from my perspective, if the expansion releases on November 23rd and you delay the raid until January, there's a pretty high likelihood that the expansion quickly gets the same reputation that WoD had for having nothing to do, right? If you're just literally doing Torghast, you have a full legendary built before the raid opens. You actually have nothing to do in game for like the week before the raid comes out. If they pushed it to January,
I'm actually astonished when the expansion released. Not necessarily the raid date matches up with the expansion fine. The thing that caught me the most off guard was the expansion being launched on November 23rd.
Yeah, it felt pretty soon. I was surprised. I'm actually kind of happy about it, but yeah, it's still surprising.
I'm glad. Like, I didn't think that it was going to be ready by then, but given that it is, that's awesome. You know, the earlier we get to play the game, the sooner I have content.
I do have to question like the developer time and the devs working over the holidays, though. Like, because the expansion gets launched on the 23rd, and like arguably they're going to have like less. They're going to be doing less because the expansion is already shipped, but there still needs to be a lot of people working and in the office to be able to fix these bugs that are always going to occur whenever a new expansion is released, right?
I don't know. I feel like this argument is coming from like the alternative dates that people were looking at were like December 8th, December 15th expansion release dates. Those dates would be more impacted by the fact that like then the holidays would be closer to the expansion release, right?
I mean, so no, like I think in my mind that what made the most sense is like December 8th expansion release, January 5th raid release. That way that you miss basically all the holidays for Americans in particular, right?
So for raid bug work, yeah, but like raid bugs aren't the only kind of bugs that happen, right? They're like leveling bugs, M0 bugs, all that stuff.
Well, yeah, that's why I think that the expansion gets released on the 8th, because people will be back in the office from Thanksgiving on the 8th. Or because people will be back in the office on the 8th. I don't know. I was really shocked that it launched the 23rd, is basically the point.
Yeah, that reminded me, actually, at the beginning of BFA, there was a Mythic Zero bug where you couldn't even zone into King's Rest or Siege,
dude,
even when they intended it, I think.
I wish that bug had persisted all of BFA, man.
Actually, yeah.
It did.
Yeah, you just never zoned in anyway. True.
So, okay, one little thing, or not a little thing, but one side note about this release date that became apparent a couple days afterwards is that this is going to conflict with Classic. Classic Naxxramas releases on December the 1st. So this is a week after the expansion releases and a week before Castle Nathria Heroic opens, is when the WoW Classic patch comes out, and then Nax itself opens on on December 3rd. So a couple days before Nathria Heroic week.
You know, that doesn't seem too bad to me. Like for all the guilds I've heard of on Classic, they usually clear the new raids in like what, 2 days? Like what's the average it would take for a guild to clear a Classic raid these days on release?
So like the top Classic guilds I expect will take care of Naxxramas in a matter of hours, at most.
Yeah, so I feel like that's totally fine, especially if no raids out yet. There's like there's only weekly lockouts to do, and that's
If you're like I don't know, if you're like medium hardcore and you're trying to spend a lot of time in both, like you wanted to go hard on Naxxramas and go hard in Shadowlands, I'm sure there are people that are going to be forced to choose as a result of this. But I also do think, there will be people who just like yeet out Naxxramas in a day and then still do all their Shadowlands stuff.
I think more than that, I think that it's like surprising because basically it almost kind of invalidates Naxxramas's release in a way, right?
It does feel like they're kind of sucking the oxygen out of their own room here.
It actually just kind of just kills the release of that raid, I feel like. But
yeah, I don't know. I mean, obviously I don't play Classic, but I don't think it's wrong to.
Same.
I think that, and my understanding is that there are folks who do both, and
I have a lot of guildmates who do both. Even
if you can like speedrun Nax or whatever and be technically done, like how many people are going to be excited to log in to do Nax stuff when there's also new Shadowlands stuff that is 1 week old, that they also have a character to go and do, right? Like, I don't know. It feels to me like there's no time pressure on Classic either. Like if Nax comes out a month later, in January, is that would that cause any damage to it?
No, I don't think so. I mean, for me, I don't know. I think that there are a lot of people. I don't know. I think there are a lot of people who play retail only. I don't know how many people only play classic.
I know there are people who do that as well.
I know people that definitely do play classic only, but will forego a live expansion release, like even playing a live expansion release to actively play classic is more of the point. Right?
Well, and the thing is,
not that they're not just classic only. I think that that's actually not uncommon. But will actively forego a new expansion to play Classic.
The thing is also just like how many people are in Classic guilds that do not have people that are going to want to play Shadowlands in it, right? There's that one guild. There's that one guild, though, with that famous little screenshot going around from their Discord about how the GM was going to kick anybody who was playing Shadowlands, which apparently is pretty prescient because, if that successfully allowed them to recruit a roster of Classic-only people, that's actually probably going to work out well for them.
Our GM posted this like the same text in our like live guild Discord and penned it. He's like, if I see any of you guys playing Shadowlands on release, I will kick you from the guild. God damn it, man!
Classic only.
Yeah, I agree that there should be some harmony.
It does seem like it seems like they're sucking the oxygen out of the room. I think that was a perfect way of describing it, though.
I don't think a big deal though. Really, like. Yeah, it seems to me like a little bit of like a weird, small, unforced error, but I'm still excited about Shadowlands, and I imagine there are people who are still excited about Naxxramas. Although I do think that a lot of the excitement has been muted by this timing.
One thing I was going to mention about the release day is that I personally can't get work off on the launch, but that's okay if a lot of listeners are out there in my same situation. You don't really need to be having a full week off for leveling anyway. Leveling doesn't take longer than like 5 to 8 hours, depending on how fast you go. So I'm just going to get home and probably finish the first night when I'm home. Like it actually releases when I get home from work. And then I'll finish Mythic Zeros at some point and I'll have a couple days off, honestly, and I could just do a second character. So if you're only leveling one character.
Oh, so are you making Kiev level with you?
Oh yeah, we're going to level together.
So you're making her wait?
No, we should both be home when it starts. We got to plan
that.
Okay. So what about a second character? Is that something that you've got a plan for?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I can fit at least a second character in while working all week as well, and probably do Mythic Zeros and all that for the week.
Yeah, there's really not much that you need. Like the amount of time that you need to put in to get a character ready on the first week is not prohibitive at all. So anybody who's in your position of like working, or even in Telos' position of traveling and being busy for 4 out of those 7 days of the week, you can still do all your stuff. It's only if you want to have like 6 characters ready for some ungodly reason.
Oh, yeah. I'm not a tank. I've been blessed the fact that I could only play Moonkin for this tier, so I am able to come back home on Saturday for my trip, level Sunday, and do my bullshit on Monday, and that's all right. We're good. We're good to go.
Yeah, I did 3 tanks last time, and I took work off, and that was honestly a mistake. I should have just done. I mean, I actually had to do 3, but I should have just done 2 and then done a third later in the week or something.
Probably total for like leveling Mythic Zeros and do the Torghast layers that you need to do. It's probably like 20 hours at the most.
Yes, that's one day. Kappa.
For some people, yes.
I guess, yeah, one day. It's probably like 20 hours the most, right?
Yeah, I mean, it can be more game hours if you're, taking your time with it. But even if you're like, I'm not saying that playing 20 hours per week is casual, but playing 20 hours for launch week of the new expansion, there are a lot of people who like average less hours than that will play. They'll put more of their free time budget into a WoW release when it's new, right?
Yeah.
And of course, there are going to be people who don't have the ability to get their character fully set on the first week. But if you miss out on some M0s, or even if you miss out on some Soul Ash from Torghast, you are really not, unless you're like in that mythic progression situation where you're literally playing in a guild that is planning to do progression on the Christmas holiday weeks, then you're not gonna be negatively impacted by being a week late on starting your Soul Ash. And I don't know how many people there are that are both in a guild that is trying to raid Mythic over the Christmas holidays and can't fit in 20 hours on the first week of release. I don't think there's too much overlap there. Tattles, you can't. You're literally going to be able to do that. What do you mean, dude? Why is it sad?
It's annoying is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like there's going to be a time crunch on you, but
fucking annoying.
Yeah.
I mean, the way that I'm able to do it is because I don't have a job like a normal person.
Right. Yeah.
So actually make it happen. But
if you're in that position where you're like you've got Thanksgiving obligations all week and you have a job that you're going to have to spend the rest of your time on, like, yeah, it's going to be a release week that you're going to miss some stuff on. But again, that's it's not the end of the world. The sky isn't falling.
I mean, I'm not worried about any of it. Like more so than anything else. Like even if I am late on the Soul Ash, we're gonna talk about that later. They changed the Soul Ash, but like,
yeah,
if I don't, even if you only have a rank 1 legendary, it doesn't matter that much. Like,
let's just move that to now. Let's talk about the Soul Ash now.
We talk about it now. Yeah.
So Soul Ash, for those who don't know, you get this delightful little currency from Torghast. They've changed around the numbers recently, so the new news is that you can get 1,200 Soul Ash per week from doing all your Torghast, and it requires 5,150 Soul Ash to get the fully juiced legendary, which is a 5-week commitment. 5 weeks of full Torghasting will get you your rank 4 Lego. You get your first rank on week 2, and then you get one every week after that. So that means that it is Mythic week number 2 that you will get the rank 4 legendary. And on Mythic week number 1, you'll have the rank 3, and on Heroic week, you'll have the rank 2, assuming you get all your Soul Ash in any given week. This is new. I think this is a 1-week nerf to when you could get each of these ranks from the previous beta values, right?
Not exactly, because you're able to upgrade your legendary to rank 2 a week earlier.
Okay, but
you're able to. So like the time that it takes to craft the legendary is a nerf, but the upgrading of the legendary to rank 2, you're like the same week you craft the legendary to rank 2, you craft the legendary, you're able to upgrade it to rank 2 as well.
Okay, so it was the same. It's a week later than it used to be. Yeah.
Rank 4 is like one more week on top of everything. So like it is mostly a nerf, but it's not a nerf like straight across the board. And I mean nerf in like
it's going to take longer.
More time required. Yeah, exactly. Slightly more time required, not necessarily like nerf.
You used to be able to have a rank 4 legendary fully upgraded on week 1 of Mythic, right? And now it's going to be on the 8th day of Mythic. I feel like that's the reason they changed it, or so that they could keep up the eye level of the legendary on the 2nd week. When I don't know what item level we're going to be, but if you have like a bunch of 200 gear in your bags and then your legendary is still 190, that doesn't feel too good.
Yeah.
I think in Legion it was always like 20 to 30 item levels higher.
Well, at the very start of Legion, actually, legendaries were lower item level than they buffed them a couple weeks into Emerald Nightmare because they were the same item level as Mythic Gear, and everybody they buffed them to like 15 item levels higher. And that's what it's going to be like here as well. 226 is Mythic Gear. So on the first week of Mythic, your legendary is actually going to be 1 item level below the Mythic Gear that you're obtaining, and then on the 2nd week of Mythic, it's going to be above. So that actually has some trading implications on that first week. You'll no longer be able to trade items in your legendary slot on week 1 of Mythic. But I don't know. It's all whatever ball in my opinion.
I think it is really interesting that you're going to have the higher item level, full upgraded legendary on the 8th day of Mythic for the world first race. So if the last boss makes it to the second lockout, then everybody's going to get like the weekly cash, a full 10 item levels on all their legendaries, and probably some other bonus that I'm not thinking of. But that's pretty big damage gain, survivability.
Yeah, the more power that goes into that week 2 power spike, the more likely it is that that is a big advantage for the North American guild as well.
Let's be fair. Upgrading the item level of your legendary is such an inconsequential damage gain as a whole. Like, the biggest damage gain is not by the stats that you're gaining via legendary. It's the legendary effect itself more often than not. So there could be potential for a second legendary to be crafted on the second reset of Mythic. I think that is the bigger thing to be looking at, not the upgrade.
What rank would you get that thing to? You'd get it to
one.
Well, okay, so hang on. You have, if you want to do 2 rank 3 legendaries, you're looking at 6,400, which is okay. That's, you can't do that on week 5. So you could have a rank 3 and a rank 2, or you could have a rank 4 on week 5 and a rank, I guess maybe not even rank 1. Yeah.
So I mean, but the point being is, like, Sire Denathrius and Stone Legion Generals are seeming like they're not going to be as single target focused, where it's like going to be a difficult decision as to what, like, they'll be more cleave focused, so it'll be a difficult decision as to what legendary you want to rock through the whole entire raid if you think it's only going to last 1 week. However, if you have the option to craft 2 legendaries as a whole, that may be a pretty big power spike if you had something that was like not.
I mean, you could craft multiple legendary. You could craft 1 legendary per week. On week 2, you can craft a legendary, and then you could craft a new rank 1 legendary every week thereafter for like 23 weeks if you wanted to, instead of upgrading the item levels of 1. And that absolutely might be the move if particularly for world first players. They may want to like craft 1 legendary that's pretty good for them, get that effect, leave it at rank 1 for the early bosses, and then if they need a specific one for a later boss, they can get that at rank 3. For Denathrius.
We're thinking about this under the lens of they'll probably play the same character. They may just have 2 fucking characters, man.
That's true. Yeah, I mean, they will have multiple characters. Yeah.
I mean, two of the same thing.
Well, okay. The problem with playing like 2 warlocks or whatever is like, yeah, okay, you can have one that's a different covenant and has a different legendary, but it's not going to have that raid gear that the first one got. Right? You can only get those mythic kills on 1 character. So
yep, that's true.
That item level is powerful. Yeah. This is going to be interesting and difficult decision making that the top guilds are going to have to make. For normal players, the way the legendaries are probably going to work out is you will have whichever one you want, and it will be rank 4 very quickly. And if you want to start crafting another one, you can have it at rank 4 pretty in January.
The way that you're going to do it as a normal player, you take if you're a raider and you enjoy doing Mythic Plus on the side, which I think most PvE people are, you take your fucking raid legendary, you rank that up to level 4, and then it's like, all right, now we grab our Mythic Plus legendary, we rank that up to level 4, and it's just like, all right, we're good to go. If you're a Mythic Plus only player, just go wild, do whatever the hell you want.
There's little case where you're going to get seriously punished because the thing is you're never like far behind with your legendaries, right? Like, you maybe will decide later you want a different one, or even you want the same effect with different stats or in a different slot or something like that. But you can just do that, right? You can just do it, and it takes a month to get the new one up to rank 4, and that is fine. You are never more than like a month away from just having that new legendary, and once you've crafted it, you have access to it forever, right? It's not like the Covenant system where you are always unable to have all the things you might want, right? You can just craft whichever legendaries you want after some time, and then you've got it. So yeah, I would not look at legendaries as prohibitive for what you want to do. You can do anything you want to do with legendaries.
I think that's nice too.
Yeah, it's
you can target amazing. Them. You can plan for it. You don't have to rely on RNG of killing every Mythic 0 boss across the entire world every week and trying to get a legendary and clearing like every raid on LFR, normal, heroic, and then Mythic for legendary chance.
Dude, I forgot about those Legion World Tours where you'd literally, it would be like the middle of 7.2.
Oh, yeah.
And you would go do every dungeon on M0, and you'd go do every raid on every difficulty. You'd do like normal Emerald Nightmare, heroic Emerald Nightmare, normal Trial of, and you were just doing all these boss kills because they had high. Yeah,
I'm queuing LFR every single raid, every single
I hated that so much, man. Yeah, I only did it a couple times.
That's the last time I was ever in LFR was because of legendary chance. It was incentive to do it at least, but it was a hassle.
Yeah. All right. So that's release date stuff. I guess we could talk a little bit about Ian's reply. So there was a little bit of there's a post going around that was a Blizzard post from last year citing their desire to try and make sure that they don't release stuff in the middle of the holidays for people, because that was something during like Visions in the Zoth release date speculation, which ended up not Visions in the Zoth ended up coming out in this year, not in the holiday season last year. And so there's a lot of posts about that. And Watcher, Ian Hazakostas, had a reply, not actually to one of the tweets criticizing him, but to a tweet that's saying it would be bad either way, which I agree with. I agree if you delayed the raid till January, I agree that you'd get there's nothing to do in the game complaints a lot. Yeah. And so he says, yeah, honestly, this pretty much nails it. We do try to avoid these conflicts whenever possible, and the ideal answer would have been to release the game right about now, like the original release date, but it just wasn't ready. Yeah. Launching but delaying the raid further would ruin overall pacing. Delaying the whole game to avoid the Mythic conflict wouldn't be right for everyone who's been patiently waiting, which I agree with this, yeah.
I don't know if I agree with that last part. You've already delayed the game, right?
Yeah, but
the game is delayed. I'm pretty sure they're not legally allowed to delay it after the year 2020.
They are, as long as they're offering refunds, which they already are.
Again, well, yeah, all right. So they have to offer refunds on a pre-order. I didn't know that they were allowed to delay it after the year 2020, but
yeah, they're the only thing that and it's not like somebody's going to force them to just release something, but for some countries will force them to accept refunds if they delay a pre-order past
which they've already offered.
As soon as they announced a release date, once they delayed from that one, they had to offer pre-orders for a lot of those countries as well, as my understanding.
Yep.
Not just the 2020 thing, but yeah, I think that it is true that there are a lot of people who, if the expansion, if there are people that are saying just release the expansion 2 weeks later, like, I don't know, it's going to be awesome to have the expansion 2 weeks earlier, right? Like, it's going to be awesome to play it 2 weeks sooner and have, dungeons to do and Torghast to do and stuff. And there are a lot of people who like never set foot in Mythic and designing the release calendar around that Mythic
for what
raid.
For what it's worth, historically there was a 4-week period from expansion release to raid release. Now it's a 2-week period, which I think, I don't hate the 2-week period. I think it's correct for what Shadowlands is, but that statement, like what he said, is like also just not true, because they've already altered their pathing in terms of when the raid is released.
Right, but it can be fine to make the raid closer to the expansion date, but if you take it farther than 4 weeks away, like I already in BFA, I was already on week 3.
It to be 4. Yeah.
On week 3 before the raid was open, I already was like, okay, there's nothing to do in BFA. In week 1, so like if that got to 5 weeks instead of 3, I'd be like, okay, Mythic 0 at Taldazar for the 5th week in a row is not. I'm not getting anything out of this anymore.
I'm not arguing. I was just pointing out that it's not like 100% truthful what he's saying. I think that the 2-week cycle from expansion release to raid release is correct, though. Like I think that is the move for what Shadowlands is, and in terms of what the content that is going to be provided to the players is, I think that 2 weeks is correct, but
I think that it's going to be interesting, though, because it means we're going to have, as we mentioned, less legendary availability going into this stuff than if it was longer, but also like less renown levels and conduit stuff as well, right? Our conduit trees are going to be a little bit less filled out than they would have been if we had an extra week, right?
What renown level are we going to be?
Less. I haven't done them.
No. I'm not sure right now.
Yeah,
I don't mess with the renown level. That's not my job.
This is the kind of thing I'm going to look into, because it may be relevant with how the trees work.
How do you get renown again? Is that that's not Torghast?
It's like World Quest.
No, it's like World Quest stuff, and weekly Covenant Hall dailies, like the callings, the emissaries.
But there's only so much you can get, right?
Per week.
You can get more, but there's only so much that goes towards the power level stuff. Then you can get as much as you want for class hall cosmetic stuff.
I understand now. Okay,
yeah,
that makes more sense. I haven't done a lot of research into it, because on beta you're like fully capped, so it's not been tested at all by me.
Yeah, it's something that I plan to look into and plan out in like the week before Shadowlands when I'm really finalizing my plans. Because it is important, you know, that it's not just like if you're a Mythic progression player, it's not just what character is going to be best with each covenant when it's fully leveled. Like you need to look at like, okay, what's going to be good on week 3 of Mythic, on week 4 of Mythic, because that, you know, or whenever you're planning to get to Denathrius, is when you want to plan to play the character that has the highest power then, and because everything after Denathrius is irrelevant, right?
It takes a lot of time to be able to do your tree fully. But
dude, there's a degenerate play pattern that I'm expecting from World First players. By the way, here's. Say you want to play Venthyr for, you know, some bosses, and then Kyrian for other bosses, and then like Nightfade for the last boss as a World First Raider. So you can do that, right? You get your free swap. Then Denathrius dies, and your character is tainted. Your character no longer has free swaps to those covenants, right? So instead of playing that character for farm, you level up a new character of that class on as soon as Denathrius goes down, and you play that character during farm, so that in the next tier you also have all your free swaps.
I
believe that World First players will be doing that. There's no reason not to. It's literally
for next tier is what the
problem because in next tier you want your character to have all your free swaps. I don't believe that any sane human should do that, but I believe that will be something we see out of World.
I didn't see the point. I was like, why do they care? They already got World First, or they're already done raiding, and then
as soon as farm comes out, you're prepping for next tier, right? And so you'd rather literally get a new guy leveled so that you have all your free swaps. That's book it now. That's gonna happen. People are gonna do that in those very top guilds.
No, just honestly, why are they even letting us swap at all? Just lock us in. Fuck it.
Lock the whole account.
Maybe if you transfer
lock it by IP, man. You literally you log in and you got to carry an IP, and that's what's happening.
Maybe if you transfer your tune from Horde to Alliance, you get a reset on your free lockout.
I doubt that will work, but it might.
Can I ticket that? I accidentally made a mistake, and I didn't mean to select that I wanted to go Kyrian. Can I please get a refund?
There's no way they will give those out, man. That
absolutely fucking not.
Right. I think that's about enough.
If you give me your PayPal, I'll send you $50.
Dude, trade me 50,000 gold. I can double it. I'll pay you back 100,000.
I'm not above bribing the Q&A person, or not a Q&A person, but a person who responds to tickets.
All right, let's move on. Let's let us flee this topic rapidly and move on to our tip of the week segment. My tip of the week segment is if you are a Weak Auras user, which if you're not, you should consider it. You should check it out. There's a lot of cool stuff that Weak Auras can do. You might want to look into the Weak Auras Companion app. So this is a desktop application you can get from weakauras.wtf. Your computer, Chrome tried to protect me from viruses when I tried to download it, but it's not a virus. Well, you have to like click through the advanced to be like, yeah, I'm sure, yeah, you know, this might be a virus. I understand. Give me the virus.
Please give me the virus.
Yeah. And then, but Weak Auras Companion, what it does is it lets you auto update your Weak Auras and or manually update your Weak Auras even from in-game. So you just open up your Weak Auras thing and then you can like right click on a Weak Aura and just be like update to the newest version. And it is really nice to be able to do that. I personally don't have it on automatic because I don't want updates pushed to my UI without me planning on it. But I do go through all my Weak Auras and basically right click all of them and update when I'm feeling like it's time to do a UI update. And that's much nicer than like going to each of the URLs and re-downloading the Weak Aura from there. And you can even have it update only some parts of the Weak Aura, so like not the position, not the size, but all the other stuff, not the custom options even. So definitely check that out if you're a Weak Auras user.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Up next is Trell's tip of the week. Trell, what's your wisdom for us?
Oh man, it's getting hard to think of these tips, but now that potions are a 5-minute cooldown, they reset when the key starts. Because anything with 3 minutes or higher usually resets. I think there's some exception out there, but you can actually pre-pot before a key starts now. So if you want to use a full 60-second buff, like Unbridled, you can have some extra single target damage. I still forget every time we start a key. It's just a new thing that I have to remember now, but start getting in the habit now.
Dude, this is so stupid. Pre-potting before keys is so stupid, man. I mean, you should do it, but I hate that it works. I hated.
Well, if you're like Tettles, you just never use potions in dungeons anyway, so
that's
it's okay.
true. Yeah, Tettles doesn't care.
Go save that gold, baby. I mean, I have 7 million gold, and I'm not spending any of it.
Dude, Tettles is literally out here chugging trick or treat Halloween items for a faster WoD raid speedrun, but he's like, oh, an unbridled fury potion. No, that's too much for me.
And I'm slamming fucking gun shoes in my WoD speedrun. Those things are like 300 gold a piece.
But yeah,
okay. The point was that it's not. The point was that it's not enough of a damage increase to actually care about it. Not that I don't use them whenever I think about them, is that I just don't use them as much as other people did.
I wish they would make it so that just you lost all of your buffs when the key went in. Like, meta goes away, you know, they reset the cooldowns of everything and drop all the buffs. Also, reset the cooldown of Ankh, for God's sakes. Like, why is that cooldown not reset on key start?
Yeah, seriously.
Ankh is just, it's such a weird, like, second-class citizen to all the other effects in the game that reset on stuff starting.
Also,
cheat death effects
reset 2-minute CDs, please.
Yeah, that's true, actually. Cheat death debuffs don't go away.
Yeah.
But abilities do, right? Like, and even a 10-minute cooldown will reset on, you know, Sated goes away and everything, but not Ankh. And not, I guess, the 6-minute cheat death debuffs. I'm surprised
it's not, like, similar to PvP, but...
Yeah, the way that, but I guess that would be weird. You know, people don't like PvP can be jarring, right? Getting into an arena and like abilities being weird. I guess.
I just meant like it just completely wipes your buffs and debuffs once the.
I believe that would be good as well. And particularly like I hated the Archive of the Titans meta, man. Do you remember back in Archives of the Titans? I don't know if you guys played with anybody who like training dummied for 5 minutes to get full stacks, but like that was correct. Yeah, okay, Tettles was a boomkin.
I did, actually.
They did that, yeah.
That is a boomkin thing, yeah.
Yeah. That's not my idea of some... The problem with those things is you could say just like, oh, don't do it, but you know, the game should be designed in such a way that the right move is also the fun move, and whenever those two are different things, that's like, you know, people that like doing the right thing are going to be pulled in two different directions.
I think it really depends on what it is, but yeah.
Running through the entire Underrot dungeon to kill the last 2 mobs, so you have the gate open for the next key.
Oh yeah,
that is in fact in fact the right move and not the fun move. I think that like pre-meta and like pre-potioning before the key starts, like it's not ideal, not the worst thing though.
I agree it's not the end of the world, but I do think I think it would be just good to change it.
Sure, I don't disagree. I also think that it's stupid that I have to generate 100 astral power and cooldown before the key starts every single time as well.
All right, our clip of the week this week comes from Preach's Twitter. That this is a good one. This is a good pick, Tettles.
This is a classic tweet.
Yeah, came out on the day of the release. Here, let's have a listen.
Kids, Daddy's got to go away for Christmas.
Why?
Loot. Kids.
That is loot.
They're like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yes, I understand.
Can't blame them.
Can't argue with loot.
Very, very, very good content, man. Preach's Twitter and YouTube is actually just a goldmine. Particularly, he's got some, like, there was an unlisted video he made 4 months ago that he tweeted that was a complete banger. That was just about like the dissonance of the Covenant storyline versus the mechanic of it. Yeah,
his cold opens are also really strong. Just in general, and some of his YouTube videos, how he opens them up with like just total memery. I think that his videos are very well done.
Yeah, Breach is great at that.
Yeah, it's definitely a YouTube channel that I did not follow until like 7 months ago. Until I started finding his like sound bites about Covenant stuff, and I was like, oh, dude, this guy's a genius.
Yeah, he did some really good, like some of his Legion content was also very good whenever he was like playing a survival hunter and doing that in keys, and like he leveled up all the characters and was like pugging them up to some score and like leveled all the characters and was, or I think maybe his goal is AOTC on all the characters, something like that. He was trying to prove that meta is only a fabric of social norms and not a fabric of balancing always, right?
Yeah, proving that you can succeed on weird stuff, right? Like that it's not impossible to play the game if you're playing something weird.
I think it was like AOTC and then like a 15 or something like that. It was something weird. He had some parameters for what he set for himself. But that was back in Legion. His content was really good.
Dude, all of those, like Sham from BDGG also does that Pugging It Up series, and like all that content is, and Growl's Pug Adventures as well kind of fit in this thing, where I'm like watching it and I'm like, this is good content. I could never imagine doing all that Pug content though myself. Like,
I think I'm gonna try it. I think I'm gonna try it on Alliance at some point. This expansion. My stream keeps telling me to make a character on Ragnaros and name it From Rags to Riches. The name of the series that I said, and I say every single time, I'm absolutely not making a character on Ragnaros. Leave me alone.
Dude, From Rags to Riches is a great series name for that premise, though.
I know it absolutely is, but I'm not making a character on Ragnaros.
Speaking of Alliance are now the reigning champions of Mythic Plus. At least on pre-patch, the world first plus 34 was achieved by this Alliance squad here of gamers. They took it down yesterday, and this is the highest key to have ever been done in the history of the world of Warcraft.
Yeah, I think 4 to 5 of them are streaming. I watched that live. They're really nice guys, interacting with chat, because they're not like a super prominent group. They had like 100 viewers in their chat, and some of them were getting a huge influx because they were doing a world first key. That's how it goes.
Yep.
But they were super excited and just having a good time. It's fun to watch. Everybody doing pre-patch stuff. It's not like super serious like it is at the end of a full season for these groups. Most of the time they're trying as hard as they can, obviously, but they're still just like keeping it laughable and chill. It's fun to see.
I mean, these people were doing really high keys at the end of the season too. There were like 28s and 29s. Equi and Flippy were both doing insane keys. I'm not really familiar with the other guys because I'm not Oceanic, but I know that they were.
Flippy ended at like 6,700-ish. Pretty close. Me and him were really close at the end. Same thing with Trans.
Yeah. So these guys got to be like 9K now or something, right? 9.
Yeah, they're like 9.1K.
Are they really? Holy shit.
Very impressive. Yeah, the big injection
ever.
That's true. The highest IO score in the history of the world of Warcraft.
I think you actually could get 10K right now. No joke. I think if they had enough time, they could do it. I don't know if 2 more days of this push week is enough.
Right, so it's possible, but only on these affixes, right? Because next week we get Tyrannical back. And,
hello, Tyrannical. Goodbye, Mythic Plus.
Dude, I described Tyrannical and Fortified in a YouTube video as the sun and moon of Mythic Plus. Fortifies the sun, and then Tyrannical's the moon, and it's time to go to sleep. All right,
that's true.
I thought it was a humorous way of thinking about it, but I guess not. That's okay.
I think we're just so jaded by Tyrannical. It's just not funny anymore. It's just like, man, please.
It's weird because like I feel like Tyrannical works really well in the 15 to 20 range is the thing, and so a lot of people are in that space, right? Or even the below 15 range. I feel like it's fine, but it definitely just completely breaks apart as you start getting to above that level in BFA. And I don't know where it's going to be in Shadowlands that it's like that, but I think it'll be lower at the start.
I found the moon card for you.
Oh, very cool.
That's what you're doing. I was like, what is he doing right there? Okay, I see. Yeah, Tyrannical's like Tyrannical's definitely pretty bad in Shadowlands currently, but I feel like after they do some more boss tuning, it should be better. Because like season 1 of BFA, Tyrannical wasn't too bad.
No, season 1, both affixes were on the front page, pretty heavy. Season 1 of BFA was the only season ever where there's been a lot of Tyrannical keys on the front page. Every other season, it's been just all Fortified all the way, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, because whenever Raider IO was invented, Fortified was already BIS.
Yeah. The gear and stuff used by these guys, you can see a lot of stuff that is new to pre-patch. If you haven't been keeping up with the pre-patch meta, Crucible Miner, super OP. Use that if you either play Crucible Major to get the Miner as well, or play the Miner. It's sick.
Yeah, it's a lot of it.
Pure stat-based stuff. Heart of Darkness you see on all these guys. Stat-based trinkets like Manifesto Madness. Actually, players are all using a double book. They're dual wielding books, man. They're playing Manifesto Madness and Highborn Compendium.
Of Storms is OP
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah. So the
Which
books.
is that from?
Highborn Compendium was an eye level 400. Back pre squish. It was low item level craftable. It was pretty good though. When it came out, it was Eternal Palace time, and it was good in Eternal Palace 60 item level flow or something.
That thing almost.
Yeah.
That thing seems better for my hunter, and it's an intellect trinket, but it seems better for like 2 DPS. So I'm just keeping the Agi trinket. But still, it's like, why is that bit?
Dude, we made our hunter use an intellect trinket on Unat, the sliver. Back when you had sliver stacks in the range. Our hunter, dude, he hated it so much. We were like, dude, you're putting this on. It's like, no, just let me go stand by myself. But no. Yeah,
back when you raided with Nagura, Sag.
Yeah, during Crucible for a bit. That was, it turns out that much as you may think, waking up for a raid that's at 6 a.m. is a move, it's not the move.
Probably not the move.
That's not what you want to do. Yeah. Stuff like Blood Siphon is also showing up a lot here, and you can see some cool stuff too, like the Light's Decree stacking on the Holy Paladin. Light's Decree used to be one of for Holy Pallies. You'd used to play it for just the Crusade or the Avenging Wrath increase, but now because they have Holy Power, it actually functions for their damage too, and it does a wild proportion of their damage. So that is just out of control for the spec. But everything that's going on here this is a group that is optimized for the current patch, and it's cool to see them just blowing stuff up. All right, Mythic Plus news aside, we also have a front page on the Raider.io leaderboards that is looking nice and colorful. There's a lot of Brewmasters up here, but it's actually mostly just because like Trans Flippy and Trell and Tech Monk have a lot of these top runs. But if you actually look at all the different groups that are on this front page here, we've got.
Oh, I actually have a run there.
Yeah, dude, you got your Junkyard 32 up here on this front page.
Chompy randomly playing Guardians.
Yeah, we got 4 different tanks on the front page. We got 3 different healers. So 4 different tank specs, 3 different healer specs. There's a Shadow Priest. There's Arcane Mage, Frost Mage on the front page. There's an Outlaw Rogue in pretty much every group still, but that's, besides that, there's huge diversity among these groups, and that is just, I think this is one of the best metas that has existed here.
Where the Pro Warriors go.
Diversity.
Wait, do you think it's because I assume just because it's not optimized.
So yeah,
it's like that. Not necessarily that it's.
It is true that there is less like pressure on this than there is on a regular season, but there is still some pressure here, and that's these teams also all had like the comps that were good at the end of season 4. If those were still BIS, would just be the top ones, right? Like that those would be just doing the highest keys now. But there's clearly been a lot of upheaval in what's good. And
Fire Mage is just gone, and that was like the core of the group in season 4. You basically pulled around your Fire Mage, and they ensured that some pulls were doable.
Yeah, none of these mages on the top
impossible.
Are playing Fire. It's all Frost or a little bit of Arcane as well.
Pro Warrior is kind of destroyed as well.
Yep.
Pro Warrior just doesn't have the block up time anymore.
There are a lot of Prop Warriors that are on the second page. Just their runs got a little bit pushed off of that first page. But there are still a bunch of Prop Warriors in the top 40, just not as much in the top 20.
They can still do it for the most part, but they do struggle once they get to high enough content where they get killed without block.
Yeah, dude, it is. It's not necessarily that the spec is like bad, but man, it feels bad for me to play low block uptime Prop Warrior. It's just like I don't know. You're either fine or you're just like clenching. You're just like my defenses. Why am I squishier than cloth when my block is down? But yeah, these runs have been, I don't know, it's been cool to see. I'm looking forward to season 1 of Shadowlands Mythic Plus. The thing about season 1 Mythic Plus as well is that like it's going to take a while for a lot of people to get into it as well. Like there's going to be a lot of raiders that are busy raiding, and much like when we were talking about the classic thing, if you have one person in your 5-person group that's like busy doing high level raiding, it's going to be hard to push until they are done, and until everybody in your group is in a position to switch to M+ Covenant and M+, build their M+ Legendary. So I kind of expect that Shlan's keys will start heating up in like late January.
Yeah, that's I say.
Although there will be groups obviously that get on the board early and start going. racing for Server 15th or Surfer's 15th and stuff. I'm sure will be a thing. So there'll be keys to watch for sure. All right. Do we have any other stuff to talk about here in our show? Anything I missed?
I don't think so.
All right. Let's do thanking the patrons, the thanking of the patrons, and then we've got some Q&A to get to. So let's see, patrons. Do either of you want to take a day of doing the patrons? I feel like
Natural. No,
yeah, that's fine. With big shout out as usual to Paul of US Proudmore. Do we do 69 or do we just skip it? Trail. Spiders are friends. Delete DH. Gopher. After much consideration on buffs and nerfs, I'm going Fury Warrior. King of Skills. Zuku. Jaw. I wish I was Dratnos Dino Pillow. They still wish that for some reason. Chromed. Trekkie. The Marsh Hare. Regulus. Never Nude. Chewy. A Trell is a tank regularly expecting lives lost. That was the acronym Trell.
That is a good acronym.
That's a good one. I like that.
That might be the best one we've had.
Troll is a doomer confirmed.
Dude, I see a name up here, Rescario in parentheses. Is that...
that's gotta get removed. My bad.
Okay. Former
patron.
patron.
Every week is getting hard.
After that, we got Lufer, Zivix, Van Heelen of Second Attempt, Sin of US Kil'jaeden, Das Boot, better mage lead than Tau. Brought to you by Dratnos the Excel Wizard. Brad Ceratops. Trell hands out candy, then yells at the kids to get off his lawn. That's true, yeah. If I had a Necros. Will Blizzard care about balance, class identity, and agency? I think they do their best. Shadow Priest can pump if you chain pull, just give him a chance. Nevok, Senmora, Evie, Frosty K, New Meta. Stevenson enjoys the show's style of Dratnos introduces interesting topic. Tettles gives creative or elaboration or counterpoint. Dratnos says some kind of troll. Trell finally buttons up the point with meaningful and useful insight. Man, that was a long one.
Yep, that's our whole show, man. They figured it out.
Yeah, they got our formula down.
That's a TLDR.
Maybe next week I'll host the show and Dratnos can do something else.
Nas Nevitz thinks Stevenson made a very good point earlier. That really is how every segment goes. Wow. Okay, yep, there you go. Take Light of the Protector and Enraged Regen up to the GCD. You know, I've been meaning to say that Light of the Protector is actually gone. It's actually just Word of Glory now. But yeah. I wish they would take that one off the GCD too.
I think it at least feels a little bit less scuffed, but I have to play more Prop Paladin to have an idea for sure how bad it feels.
Oh, also, I think that's supposed to be Frenzied Regen. That changed back to something.
Yeah.
Whoa, Bonesino Verse, Notric, Vamp, Storm Rage. I scheduled a Tettle's Flame, Farewell Balanced Druid, Hello Warlock. That was the same one. C, Demeet, Syncope, Gamer Dad in Training. Feral Druid is just a hunter pet with independence.
Just look at Cybear.
Sorry, yeah. Feral players. That's actually accurate.
Cybear is just Gingy's companion.
Animal companion, not even the real pet. Heltari, Dream Team can time at any key as long as it's Junkyard. Handy's going to pump at Shadowlands. Nyx, Xylic. My brother needs to play more and stop being a noob. Flick thinks Mort needs to reroll for balance. Gaelic, Rusev, Chewy, and Dratnos routes are best.
Thank you. Cheers. All right, let's do Q&A.
Hold on. Quick throwback to whenever Dratnos was casting the Race World first, and everybody was asking where the Dratnos expert routes for the new patch were.
That's gonna happen.
Right,
to, you know, whenever if the expert routes don't come out, I don't know if I'll be. I don't know when they'll start, but until they do, I will be getting asked about it for sure. But you know, obviously, it's a very busy time at their very start, and also that's the time when the routes are hardest to make because we know the least about them, so they require the most time.
Yeah, you release them on Tuesday, and then they are like completely different by Wednesday, and you're like,
yeah.
Well, I tried.
What do I do?
Okay, our Q&A segment begins with a question from Virulins on Discord, who asks, how realistic is Christmas raiding? How will this new raid release date affect the state of World Top 100 and US Top 100? It depends on your guild. It's just a question of like how many of your guildies are busy at different times and how many of them want to raid or not raid. Basically, if there's a minority that doesn't want to raid, that will have, you know, that will rule, right? You need everybody. It needs to be unanimous, the decision to raid, basically, or close to it.
So for my guild in particular, I guess I'll just speak on this. Basically, the days we are taking off for raiding are we are taking off the day of Christmas and we are taking off the day of New Year's, and every other day I believe is scheduled for us to raid. We're not adding any additional days. We're not subtracting any additional days out. That's just how our schedule ends up lining up. As for how does it affect the state of world top 100 and US top 100, it really depends on. There will be some mobility, but I think the mobility won't be normal, like upwards mobility in terms of the raid tier, unless guilds are adding more raid days. I think the general mobility will be some guilds that are typically performing higher can have the potential to perform lower if they end up getting kind of screwed over by some of the people needing to take multiple days off. So like say you have a tank, like you actually just cannot raid if you're missing a tank.
If your tank has a holiday obligation, it's going to be rough, and there will definitely be movement in the top 100 rankings of both world and US based on which guilds are able to miss the least time and which guilds are able to add the most time over the holidays. Because adding time is something that guilds try and do for a lot of top guilds try and do, and whichever ones are able to actually do that over the holidays are going to benefit, right? There will be less time added, I'm sure, than usual over these
regardless of
2
what
weeks.
Regardless of what you believe, rescheduling raid days because they overlap with the holidays is unethical, and you should feel ashamed if you have to quote reschedule a raid day. That is unethical, and the overtime police are on to you.
It's unethical to reschedule a raid day.
Yes.
I don't think it's wrong to I don't think it's unethical to do that unless you promise you're never going to raid extra. If you're
the overtime police are on to you.
If you're a guild that your bit is that you don't raid except for on the times you list, then you shouldn't raid except on the times you list, and rescheduling I believe also violates that, because that equally affects people who joined your guild because they planned to be busy at certain times that weren't on your route progress or whatever. But other than that, I think if you're just a guild that's hey, we raid whenever everybody wants to, these are our times, but we all agree that Christmas is going to be a bad day to raid or something, I think rescheduling is totally fine for you.
I'm currently taking some ethics courses in college right now.
Okay.
And I counterpoint you're wrong.
You can confirm that's an unethical position. All right, well,
That's an unethical position.
I'll have to defer to your expertise on that
Good
one.
point, Tuttle.
Next question comes from Timbo Slice on Discord, who asks, is getting gear a big motivator for you? If Mythic rating was changed to be cosmetics and mounts only, would you still enjoy it as much? Trell, how about you? How much of your motivation is gear based?
It used to be all my motivation, but nowadays I like having a guild too. It's nice to just have a community as something separate in the game besides Mythic Plus. And I think aside from you obviously have to Mythic raid to have the best gear these days. I don't think Blizzard's ever going to change that, honestly. It's just nice to have a group of friends that you can chill with a couple nights a week, especially early on, and do something cool with them, and then wait till the next year and do it again.
Tell us, how about you? What proportion of your motivation is gear?
Almost none. And I enjoy getting gear for progression rating. The reason I raid at all is because I enjoy prog rating. Once prog is over, get me the fuck out of the raid. I do not like raiding farm. I do not care about parses. Gearing is just a means for me to not do negative damage in Mythic Plus, which sometimes is also out of my control. But I don't raid for gear, which I think is not a common opinion. I think it's
pretty true among the top 100 or whatever, that most folks are not gear motivated. But I think that most people started as being motivated by gear. Most people first set foot in a raid because there was sweet gear in there that they wanted. I first set foot in a raid because of the gear. Now I almost do not care. I do not care about But the gear is still important for the purposes of being geared for M+ and being geared for the later raid bosses. So I care about gear for that reason. But if the gear was all taken away and everybody else still wanted to raid with me, I would still the rating for the challenge is
I think there would be less satisfaction across the board if
it would be a far smaller community, I think, as well, because I think most people wouldn't have ever gotten into raiding. I'm not sure if I ever would have gotten into raiding.
No way. Because from an outside perspective, you're why would I want to do something that takes so much time for no reward? That's exactly why raiders sometimes don't like Mythic Plus. A lot of people like both these days, but a lot of people still don't like Mythic Plus because they don't get anything extra out of the higher end Mythic.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good argument for maybe there would be more people who did Mythic Plus just for the enjoyment of it if there was that gear hooking people in at the start, which Raid has, and M Plus doesn't really. It does a little bit. People do a little bit of M Plus, but pushing keys or whatever, doing high level M Plus stuff. There's really it's pure prestige cosmetic stuff. not even much cosmetics. All right, next question comes from Anastasia. Question for the Q&A today. For people who can still potentially book off time for Shadowlands release, what week do you think is the best to take off for raid preparation, assuming you're not in a day raiding guild, so you don't need to take off like any time to like you can make your raid times regardless of which week you take off. Which week is the best one to take off if you can take one?
I think that's a great question for all the gamer dads out there like me who work. I think the heroic week or the mythic week is actually the best play. Not to level your character like I was saying earlier. It's actually okay if you don't have time off for that, because leveling is on a weekly lockout and all that stuff at the beginning. But if you have time off for the heroic week, that's when you can start spamming Mythic Plus and getting a gear advantage on people. And then the Mythic week, the level of Mythic Plus is unlocked, so you can go as high as you want and farm optimal gear from it, 210s in this case.
I think that Mythic week makes the most sense. Yeah, I think that's when I would do it as well, because that's when
I think. You know, it's a weird opinion. I think that the release of the week of the release of the expansion, you'll probably have the most fun if you take off that week, though.
I don't know. I feel like you will run into like
it depends on your guild, but
for fun, maybe. Yeah.
You'll be done with stuff though. Like you'll be done on Wednesday.
Some of my most fun memories though are like doing bullshit world quests in a group of my guildies and just running around slaughtering things randomly and like leveling with the guildmates and stuff like that. And I don't know. That stuff was always fun for me, but
yeah,
I think that's a fair opinion.
I think in terms of like what she's asking about optimization of gear, I think Mythic Week makes the most sense.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you're optimizing for fun, of course, do whatever is the most fun for you.
We aren't. She says in chat, we aren't for fun gamers here.
Yeah.
God damn it. Fair point.
True. All right, that I believe is our Q&A segment finished, and with that, that's our show finished. Thanks everybody for hanging out. We'll be back next week with our UI key bindings episode and stuff, and then we'll keep going until Shadowlands comes out. And I don't know what our plans will be for Shadowlands release timing. We'll try and have episodes, and we'll let you know if there's going to be weeks that we have to miss for whatever stuff. But yeah, that's it. Later, everybody.